Hey, how y'all doing out there? This is Pete, DIY Auto School, of course. And today, what we're doing is we're block sanding this car out so we can finish it. This is basically the final prime job that you're looking at over here, and the final sand job. We're going to have it done today. Hopefully, we'll be painting it tomorrow, Sunday. My friend Pete works 7 days a week because I have to, and I guess I'm a workaholic. I like to. Keeps me out of trouble, keeps me busy, and I don't get bored. But the reason I turned the camera on today is because a lot of people want to know what kind of tools does my friend Pete use to do body work. So here's my body shop taco wagon, you might call that. This is my body shop tool wagon, and this is where I keep all of my tools that I do body work with. Now, not every single one of them, but I'd say 98% of all my body shop tools are in this toolbox right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'll go over each drawer with you, show you what's going on, kind of give you an idea of what kind of tools you might need if you want to be a body shop guy.
Welcome to DIY Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
So we're going to start up here at the top, and as we open the top of this, you can see this slides open, and it makes a nice table, I guess you can call it. Very, very sturdy. We got another one over here that will open up, and that becomes a nice stainless steel table as well. And then we look inside, and on the top we don't have much in here. Now, I used to keep my Bondo. You can see where Bondo used to be right here, and then I'd have my polyester filler. I'd keep my hardeners in here, and then if I was going to work over there on that side of the shop or come over here, I'd always have the Bondo and my putties that I needed to work with. I don't do that anymore because I actually have a Bondo table over there that I've been using for like 35 or 40 years. I just leave everything on that. But in the top of the toolbox, you really notice there's not much in here. We got our glues in here, and what these are our compounds that we use for collision repairs. Panel bond adhesive, I keep that in stock. What else do we got here? We got, what is this? Self-leveling sealer. Good stuff if you need it. And then over here we got flexible foam. That's for when you're putting door panels on or such, and you need a cushion in between two pieces of metal. And then on top of that, we got this right here, which is extra tips. You can see here's one right here. Let me go ahead and grab that. And that's an extra tip that we would use. There's probably $300 worth of stuff here, believe it or not. But if you're going to do collision repair, you really need to keep this stuff on hand, because this is a necessity when it comes to collision repair, paint and body work. Everybody uses different spreaders. I like to use the plastic throwaway spreaders, and you can see here's my box. I probably had this box for 15-20 years, and I just restock it. And I have 3 to 4 different sizes of spreaders that I use. I got the small ones right here, and then I got the intermediate size, which is these ones, and then we get into some bigger sizes, and you can see these are kind of mixed matched. But this is the spreaders that I use, and different spreaders do different jobs, and I want to show you this real quick. If you look at this spreader right here, it's nice and flexible. That means when you're working on a curved area or maybe possibly a concave area, a flexible spreader like this really works well and comes in handy. You can take that spreader and you can cup it like this, or you can take it and you can curve it like this, or you can just use it like this and lightly spread it to get that nice feather fill action that you want. And then we got these ones here. These ones are semi-hard. That means they're pretty hard, they're not easy to flex, and they're a solid type of a Bondo spreader. These are good to use if you're doing a big dent, you want to fill it in, and you want to do it at an accurate pace of getting it done. You wouldn't want to bend this one. This one here would be more for flat panels or slightly curved panels possibly, and you want the panel to do the work. And when I'm saying that, if you do come across a panel that might have a slight curve to it, and we'll use this for an example, you want the spreader, as you're pushing on it, you want the spreader to form to it. You don't want to take your spreader like I was doing with this and do it with your hand. You want to go ahead and let the spreader form itself to the panel. If you do a lot of body work, these are the ones you're going to use the most of, the smaller ones and the medium ones, which is this size right here. So these are the most common ones you're going to use, this size. And then when you do a big job, it's going to be, let's call it a Bondo buggy, you would go ahead and rely on using the bigger spreader. One more thing that I got in my toolbox I didn't show you is this is an airfile pad. This is a brand new one. I always keep these in stock because if you're going to use an airfile, you should always have a super nice flat surface pad. I have a used one here that I keep for a backup unit just in case, and you can see this one is used and abused. It's still nice and flat though, but paper sticking on this is a little bit irrelevant that it's hard to do. We have to use spray adhesive to make it stick. So let's go ahead and close this up. We're going to go ahead and close this up just like that, and let's get down to the drawers. Before we get into the drawers, let's go ahead and look at the side of the toolbox. What I have here, I have a set of headphones for protection, ear protection, very important that you have that when you're using those loud air tools. You always want to protect your hearing. I got my guide coat right here. This is what I use for guide coat. Cheap, inexpensive. This used to cost 69 cents a can, then they went up to 89 cents. And now that COVID has hit us and changed the economy, it's probably about $2.50 a can. It's just flat black paint. You see that flat black paint, dries super fast, and very, very good to use for a guide coat. I got a can of spray adhesive here, and what I use this for is in the winter time. Most of the time, I'm not going to say most of the time, I'm going to say some of the times, your stick-on paper, your stick-on sandpaper will not stick to the pads in the winter time. So what you got to do is you take this and then you will spray the back side of the pad very lightly, let it sit for a couple seconds, and then the adhesive will work again, and you can use your stick-on pads such as DA sandpaper and stick-on file paper, and it works really great. So I always keep a can of that in stock on this side of the toolbox. And then over here, this is where I keep my roll of 36 grit, and this roll's about 2/3 gone. When you get one of these rolls from Indasa, this is Indasa brand paper that I'm using, the roll is like 3 times the size of what you're looking at. So I keep that right here on this magnetic, and then what I'll do is I'll take the paper and put it up through here like this, and then it'll roll itself out like that. Let me get that, there you go. And then we got our paper where we can pull it off and use it. And that's what this side's mainly used for. Now that we looked at the top section of our toolbox on both sides, let's go ahead and scan through the doors real quick and show you what we got. So we're going to open up door number 1, which is our top drawer. And what you're looking at in here, you're looking at dollies and files. This is my dolly and file drawer, and I'm going to go over some stuff with you that's very important to have if you're going to do collision work. I also have tools in here that are for restoration work, and what that includes is these metal files. I have 3 metal files. Let me get this up. So we got this one here, which is just a nice flat metal file to get our high spots out and to clean our metal up once we do our hammer and dollieing. And then this one here is a special metal file, and you can, I don't know if you can you see that right there? Do you see how that's curved? Whatever I used that on last, that was the contour of the metal that I was shaving. And then you can adjust that by using this right here, and you can see it moving as I'm doing this. Now it's flat, and if I'm doing a concaved area, you can see how it's, do you see that? So this is a very handy file to have right here. So that's 2 metal files that I got, and then another one that I have is just the blade only, and this is basically the one that I use the most of. After I do, like, let's say some welding, and then I grind the weld down, and then I hammer and dolly it, and I want to make sure that it's nice and flat. Even if I'm going to do some body work, I still go over it with this most of the time, not all the times. But it's really good to have these metal files when you need them. The next thing that we got a bunch of cheese graters, and I got various sizes and kinds. As you can see, this one has a concave round curve on it for concaved areas, such as an area like this right here we're going to use for an example. Let's say that that was dented out really bad and got crushed in, and we needed to do some body work to it using our Bondo. We might be able to take this, and then that would fit. You can see how that fits in there, and we'd be able to use that by helping ourselves mold it to the concave that we need. And then I just got variants, different ones as I'm standing them up. Here's another curved one right here. You can see that I've used this before on something. And the main thing that you're going to use these with is Dynaglass, which is a filler Bondo. You're really not going to use them with the Bondo itself. Sometimes you do, but it's mainly used for a filler, a thick filler that you want to break down very quickly. I have extra heads right here and interchangeable heads for these big ones. So these are curved heads. This is a flat head. Here's a rasp. Look at this round rasp. Just in case we need it, we got it. You can see that right there. The main ones that I use are these 2 right here. So if I was going to tell you to go buy a rasp, a Bondo cheese grater, it would be one of these ones here. These are the small handheld ones. You can buy these at Home Depot or Lowe's, your big box store. And when I bought these, they were probably $2 or $3, and they're probably $15 now. But this is something that I would suggest that you purchase and kind of pass these ones up until you really start building up your toolbox. But you really need to buy these right here, or at least one of them. Very, very handy, and you can see they're the most used ones just by looking at them, and they work wonders. And then over here in this corner, what I have is spare blades for this rasp right here, the other one's back here, because this is the one, once again, this is the one I use the most of, and I always have spare blades in stock, and I buy these on Amazon. You can get like a 3-pack for $10, and very, very well worth the money. So I try to keep everything in stock that I need, so I always have everything. Another thing that I have in here, this is a contour pencil. You can see that right there. And what this does is, let's say I'm working on a fender well that's round, and the fender well is caved in, and I need to make that fender well work properly. Well, you will take this right here and then slide it down to where the fender well is, or whatever body line you're making, and then you will take it and you can trace it. So we'll go ahead and use this fender for an example on how this works. Let's say that this body line right here got crushed in, and we need to remake that body line. What we would do is we'd take this piece right here, and we'd go ahead and line that up. Let's say it's right here. So we'd line that up, and then we'd go ahead and make our pencil a little bit smaller. There's a screw right here, but the pencil we would push back in, so this would actually ride on the fender, And then we would find our body line just like this. Watch this, here we go. And then we would take it and then we can go like this. Do you see what I'm doing? And then it would show us where the contour is using this little tool right here. So there's the name of it right there. It's called On-Track Bodyline Tool. Very, very handy item when you're trying to do something of the sort like we're doing here, and it works very, very well. So basically what we got over here is we got our hand dollies. Now I don't have a big variety of hand dollies. I just have dollies that I use, most common ones that I will use. And you can see I have two of these, and the reason I have two of these is because one is bigger than the other. I don't know if you can see that or not, but this one is actually bigger than this one, so this will get in bigger places while this gets in tighter places. Another thing I have is two of these. The reason is one's more precise than the other. You can kind of see this has a different head on it, and it has a different end as well, where this one versus this is a smaller situation, can get in tighter places. So it's always good to have these and handy as well. This will be the most common dolly that you'll use, is a dolly such as this one. This is the one that will be the most useful for you and the one that you're going to use the most. I actually bought that when I was a teenager, and I got it over at Sears and Roebuck with my first body hammer, which I will show you that. It was a hammer and dolly kit that I bought. I think I paid $10 for it over at Sears and Roebuck, and this is actually the dolly I use the most of right here. And then we got this dolly, which has a nice horn shoe on it, you might call that, and it fits in nice, slight, you know, like in fender wells or tight spots where you need to get to, and it's a beveled edge, so it fits in very skinny places all the way up to big places. Nice dolly to have. I use that quite often. And then we got a double-headed dolly, which is kind of like this one here on that side, and then you got a flat square head on this side. A lot of these dollies that you need, and you see I don't have a lot of them. A lot of dollies, if you need to buy them, you can actually go to eBay and find these and get them at a very reasonable price. Another thing that I keep in my toolbox, I'm going to show you these, is I have these pieces of wire that I've had since I was probably a teenager. And what these are slappers that I clean my sandpaper off with when they're on the block. So let's just say that you have your hand block, and we'll pretend this is our block sander here, and our paper's built up with some primer dust or possibly Bondo. You would take it and go like this, and what that would do, that would break the cake off. The cake that was built up would break off, and then you can keep working continuously. What this is a panel puller. This is a tool that you would use, like, let's say on the hood of a car or possibly a car door, and you want to try to precisely get that panel pulled out properly, or on a fender. Let's say that you're pulling a fender out. You got to get that fender pulled out before you tighten that bolt in there. This is a tool that you would use to grab that fender lip and pull it out and then tighten that bolt. And same thing with door jams or any lip that you might need to pull on to try to get it. I don't use it that much, but when I need it, it's there for me to use. And then of course we got the cheap, inexpensive piece of crap snap-on emblem that used to be up here that does not stay on there. That's how cheap they went. They went to plastic instead of metal, and we'll keep that back there in the corner. Cheap snap-on shit. This tool right here, and I'm going to show you some other ones. This is basically the only one I use, and what this is a hand puller that I use for precise pulling when I'm using my slide hammer. If I need to use a slide hammer or possibly get into a little tight place and pull a dent out, this is a puller rod, and this is the one I use the most of. I probably had that since I was a teenager as well. Alright, let's go down to the next drawer. I think we went over everything in this drawer. Very handy items in here. Something that you should really think of organizing and getting is several of these tools to have for your use. Alright, we're going to go down to the next drawer, and what we got here, this is basically my hammer drawer. I got a lot of hammers in here, as you can see. I also have a pair of gloves in here for wintertime use. And the gloves, let me go ahead and tell you about the gloves. The reason I have gloves in here is not to use hammers with, but I use those when I'm doing body work and using my block sanders and hand sanding, because you want to keep, in the wintertime, you want to keep the dust off of your hands because it dries them out very bad and cracks your hands. So that's what the gloves are for. They're not really anything else but to use in the wintertime. I got a set of dead blow hammers. They're very good to use when you are knocking out big dents, let's just say, or possibly when you are putting on bumper brackets or heavy duty stuff that you got to get a good blow on. So I got 3 different sizes of dead blow hammers, and I keep those in here. I have a plastic head hammer. I use this not a lot, but I have it in here in case I need it for minor dents, let's just say. Instead of using a metal head over there, I will take this, and one is a rubber head and one is actually a plastic head. So that's just another hammer. I have 2 carpenter hammers in here, and sometimes I might have to grab one of those and just use it. Then I have a cheap dead blow hammer, which is a little bit smaller than the other ones that I just bought to put with my set in case I need a small one. We got several spoon hammers, and we'll go ahead and talk about these ones first. These are spoon hammers that you would use with a sandbag if you are forming metal. You can see how big these things are. They're heavy and they're bulky, and I don't use them quite often, but when I need a spoon hammer of this size, I got it. The spoon hammers that I use is this one here, which I made. I made this hammer. It's a slap hammer, and it works very, very well for big spots. It's lightweight. It is contoured to fit for my hand, and I can use that and slap hammer the shit out of metal if I need to on a big dent. This hammer right here and this hammer here, these are actually door skin hammers. These are hammers that you would use for door skins and body panel replacement. You can see that it's got a curve right here. That's to get into, you would use it, get into the edge of the door to pound that door lip around to install that. And the same with this one. It's got a round head, but it's just flat. But sometimes I will grab this one here and just use it for regular dents, because it's just, the heads on them are just really handy to use. You can see one's curved more than the other. Let me go ahead and turn that. So just because the hammers are designed for a specific thing doesn't mean that you won't use them for something else, if that makes any sense. This one here is just a brass hammer. The heads are exactly the same, but when you are working with soft metal such as aluminum or something like that, a brass head hammer works very well. These are the main hammers that I use. A matter of fact, I got to replace this handle. You can see how the head is loose. Once the head starts loosening up on that like that, you can't really tighten it up anymore. So the best thing to do is just get a new handle for it. And then this is the hammer that I use, this slap hammer right here, spoon hammer. And this thing here will work wonders. This is a dedicated, if I tell you to get any hammer whatsoever, this would be possibly the #1 hammer that I would tell you to get. And then, of course, I would actually turn that around. This would be the #1 style I would get right here, and this would be #2. Now, I want to show you, this face here is not a waffle face. This is a smooth face. A waffle face is used for shrinking metal, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. But these 2 hammers right here are my main hammers, and these are the ones I use the most of. So let me dig down here and tell you, I was telling you about Sears and Roebuck, and this is my very first body hammer that I ever bought back when I was a teenager. I used to use this hammer on everything before I started collecting hammers and using different hammers. This was my main body hammer. This is a Sears and Roebuck head. The handle's been changed out probably 3 or 4 times. But this hammer here fixed a lot of cars for my friend Pete. Believe it or not, this was my main hammer along with that Dolly right there. I bought those at Sears and Roebuck, and I still have them to this day, and I probably bought them when I was like 17. I don't use that hammer anymore as much as I do this one. When I bought this one, and I'm going to tell you right now, these are snap-on hammers that I'm showing you. There's another snap-on. Here's a snap-on. And I think snap-on hammers, well, when I used to buy them, I always thought that snap-on hammers were top of the line. I don't know who made them, but they work very, very well and are balanced really nice and are very high-end. So most of the hammers that I use are Snap-on brand, and I'm thinking that another company named Martin Body Hammers is the one that made them, and they put the Snap-on name on them. But this hammer right here, I suggest to get one just like this, and make sure that it's a nice high-quality one. Don't just go to Harbor Freight and buy the cheapest one you can find, because there is a difference when you use a body hammer, trust me. Now, here's a hammer right here that I very rarely use, but I got it in stock, and this is a pick hammer. This can reach in very, very tight places, and if you got a dent that you got to get out, or you got a crease, let's just say there's like a sharp crease, you can use your Dolly and this pick hammer and get that crease out. It's very important to have different hammers for every kind of use. And this is called a long reach hammer. This is not a snap-on hammer. I bought this online from a tool store, but this hammer here I use quite a lot. It's called a long reach hammer, and it gets right inside there and just does the job great. This would be my second best hammer that I use, so I would go ahead and get this. As far as hammers go, and not spoon hammer, this hammer and this hammer would be the go-to hammers that I would use to break it down and get those dents out. And then I already picked this hammer up right here, and here's another one. You can see those have waffle faces on. Those are called shrink hammers. So you got a big square one, and you should never use this hammer unless you're using it to shrink, because it will mess up the waffle face and then it'll continue not to work. The more you use this hammer, the flatter the waffles will get. So only use this when you're using them for shrinking metal. And then of course this is a flat side, and then we got the pick over here. So those are shrinking hammers. And then I got one more hammer here in my box, and that was my daughter's hammer when she was a little girl. I bought her a tool kit to come out in the shop and work with me, and this was her hammer that she would use to pound on old sheet metal and old fenders to work on when she was out in the shop with her dad. So I keep that in there as memories of my daughter. All right, so you see my drawer is actually really full of hammers. Once again, the main ones I use is this one, and then I'll go ahead and use the long reach. But I do have hammers for every different style and size that I need. The next drawer we're going to go ahead and open is my block sanding drawer. These are all hand sanding block sanders that I have purchased since I was a teenager. This block sander right here, let me go ahead and get it out, is probably the very first one I ever bought. It's an old 3M block. I got several of these, and I bought that when I was a kid, when me and my brother used to do body work out in the street and paint cars and trucks. And this was on my hand sanding block that I would use to do body work with and everything else before we even got into air tools. Now this block sander here is a very unique sander, and I'm going to show you why. If you look at the shape of that pad, do you see how it's bigger here and smaller there? That's because this is specifically designed to use a DA sanding disc on it. Alright, you can see where it's round right here, That's where your sanding disc paper will end up when you use that to fold it over. And then of course I have several different kinds and sizes, but you can see I got 3 of these blocks here. Actually I got 4 of them. And then I got 2 of these. One's a longboard. And these are nice to have. I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. I think 3M made these. You can see how old that is. I've had that for many, many years. And you can see that I do use it. All right, because hand sanding is the most important sanding that you will do to get your car paint ready. Here's a big long rubber block, just like the one that I showed you earlier. And back in the day when I started this, these were the main blocks that you would use right here. So that's why I have so many of them, because those blocks, I would have 36 on one, 180 on the other. I might have 80 grit on that one, and then I'd flip-flop back and forth and do my work. Here's a nice tool right here. Let me show you how this works. So you see how that opens up like that? So this would be a dowel sander because it's round, and then that would be good for situations like we looked at over on our Nova, where you need to get in concave areas and sand that out, like kind of like this right here. Now what you're looking at here, this is actually packing foam from aftermarket body parts, and you can see I got several different pieces here. And what I do with this stuff is I make my own sanding blocks. Here's one right here that you can see where I cut it off, and I had to use that on a sharp curve or a corner or something. And keeping that type of packing material might be handy to you. It does work for me when I need it. And here's one right here. Let me go ahead and show you this that I've had probably for 25 years. This is a piece of packing material that came out of a hood or something, and you can see I still use that. I've had that for like 25 or 30 years, and that actually used to be one of my main sanders for finishing. You can see I have different kinds and sizes of flexible hand sanding blocks of all kinds. Here's one right here. It's called the big block. So I have different blocks for different stuff. You can see this right here. This is one of my main blocks that I use for finish sanding, and it's just a flex block, and I will use 320. I'll even use 180 or possibly 80 grit. All right, so these are very handy to have. You can see I have a bunch of them, and each one of them is a different thickness as far as hardness goes and softness. I was showing you these 2 right here. You can see this one's bigger than this one, but they serve for the same purpose. Very nice and handy. And another thing is, you should always keep on the precise blocks. What I try to do, I try to keep sandpaper on them so it keeps the surface clean. All right, if you got blocks that you're going to use all the time, always keep a piece of paper on it, and that keeps it clean, so it'll always be ready to use. When you pull it off, you can stick some new paper on it. And then if we look over on this side, you can see the name Dura Block here. These are the most popular blocks that beginners are going to buy, and the reason is because you can buy them in a kit. You don't have to buy individual blocks like that. And if you look inside here, this is the most common kit that you can buy. I believe when I bought this kit, it was like $25. It's probably $100 now. But you get this long skinny one, you get a round dowel, you get a good sized block, 2 size blocks, and then you get this semi-flexible one. If I'm doing a collision job, these are the go-to blocks I'm going to use to do the whole job with, because they're lightweight, they're quick, and accessible. I do not recommend Dura Blocks for doing restoration work, because they just aren't as precise made as a block over here. And you can see, even though these are hard blocks, they still have a flex to them, and you will get ripply surfaces instead of nice flat surfaces. So you can use these on a restoration, like I said, for rough-in work, but I don't recommend finish work. And then over here is the first set of Dura Blocks that I ever bought, probably 28 years ago, 30 years ago, or longer, when they first came out. And this kit was probably $30 back then. you can see I don't even use these anymore. I use these ones. But basically the same situation, except it comes with this bigger block right here. If you're going to buy a set of blocks, I would suggest to go out and buy a set of Dura Blocks to start your paint and body experience off, and then work your way in to the more exotic stuff. Another thing we got here is a paint stick. Now, paint sticks are good to use for very precise sanding, and the reason is because that's a hard, flat surface. You can cut a piece of that paint stick off right here, and it'll be the size of the paper, and then you wrap around, and then you can precisely sand anything you want using that paint stick. And then last but not least, we got the big 36-inch or 28-inch, however big this is. This is a Dura Block, and I'm going to show you a couple more down here. I got a lot of sanding blocks, but this is a Dura Block, and this is a long block. This is for, like, let's say you're working on, for an example, a GTO, a 67 GTO, and you have to do body work to the quarter panel. This is a block that you would use to help finish that quarter panel out and make sure that it's a precise finish so the panel isn't all ripply. So this is a good block to have. I really don't use it that much, but I do have it to use. And one more thing I want to show you in this drawer is this right here. When you start doing body work and start priming your car, and you're going to block sand all this, you're going to get a lot of dust in the air. To have dust control, I suggest that you take a dust broom just like this, nice soft bristle one, and instead of blowing the dust off and blowing it all around and getting your shop full of Bondo dust and primer dust and all kinds of other dust, fiberglass dust for instance, you can use this and you just sweep it off, let it fall on the ground, and then continue to work. It makes the environment a lot cleaner, a lot safer, and a lot more precise and accurate. And you can also use this, and here's a good example. You can also use this broom, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. Look what I'm doing. I just cleaned my sandpaper off. Remember I was showing you up in this other drawer, I was showing you that slapper I made? Well, now we can just do that, and look at there. It's clean. So we're going to go ahead and move down to the fourth drawer on my Bondo taco wagon, and look what we got here. We got more sanding blocks. Did I mention that sanding blocks are the most important thing that you will have in your toolbox if you want a nice, precise, accurate finish? Yes, I did. Now the blocks that I have in here are two different style blocks. Let me go ahead and explain it. These blocks are very old, but they are very accurate. And the guy that made these blocks and sold them, he is now dead and passed away. But these here take multi-rods, and I want to show you that. I'm just going to get one of the rods out. I'm not going to pull them all out. So we'll take this one here. And what you do is you take that block just like this, and then you would slide that rod in there all the way in. There's 3 rods per block, and that makes it stiffer. So this here is a spring steel plate. Very flat, very precise. It's very lightweight. It's made out of some type of super foam, and it works very, very well. But if you want a stiff, hard block that you want to use, then you would take these rods and you would slide them in like that, and then that would make it stiff. So let me put this back over here because I very rarely use those. And then I actually have 2 of them blocks right here. And these blocks here I was actually given to me from a customer that I restored his vehicle. It was a Volkswagen Beetle, and he didn't want them, and he said, if you want them, go ahead and take them. So I went ahead and took them, and they've been very, very well and work out good. And I use this block here a lot. I'm getting ready to use that today. I'm going to go ahead and leave it up here on the top. But these blocks here, if you can get a hold of some of these, I say grab them. Probably the only place you're going to find those is on eBay. So if you can't find these, the alternative to those ones is a brand, and here's the brand right here. Let me go ahead and show you that, called Black Diamond. Now this has the same style purpose. You can see here's the holes right here where the rods would go in. And then if you look down here, here's your set of rods that comes in the kit. And then it would slide in here just like that. And then it would make the block stiffer so you can't bend it. I like to use these blocks where I can flex them like that. So I very rarely use the rod system, but the rods are there to use. And then on this particular block, this is some type of a plastic surface, but it's very precise and very flat. And here's another example. You can see that I keep my sandpaper on the blocks all the time when I store them, or most of the time I might say. Some of the blocks don't have paper, but it's very important to try to keep paper on them to keep them clean, because in between the paper and the pad will always stay clean and usable. So I'm going to use this block today. I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. And then we also have a larger black diamond, and this is a kit that you can buy of 2 of them. And then I got this one here, and I want to show you this. And this is a very flexible block. Look at that. But look how big it is. This is a big boy. All right, this is a big one. And this one, does it have, yeah, it does have rods with it that come with it, and I'm sure they're over here on the side. And this is good. I use this on Volkswagens, on Beetles, and curved, very, very extremely curved tops and such. And then if we look in this box right here, this is something I picked up at a garage sale, believe it or not, over here, for $5. And these are pull rods. Back in the day, and I'm talking way back in the day, when I started, you would use these rods to pull dents out with and precisely pull them out. You would drill very small holes, and then you would use your pull rod to pull the dents out and hammer, and you can use these for hammer and dollying as well. While you're pulling that dent out, you can take your hammer and hit it. I don't even know if they sell these anymore, but if I need a pull rod, guess what? My friend Pete has a whole box of them. And then over here, this is a collapsible, portable come-along. Now, I use this for collision repairs, and I didn't have anywhere else to put it. I had an empty spot in here, so I went ahead and put it in here. But this is something that collapses down to this size, but this thing here, I use this to help pull dents out when I need a little extra pull to get stuff to line up. So that's all that is really. It's a portable come along that folds up and fits in this box, and I don't want to open it because it's kind of hard to accurately get back in. Now I want to go over these right here. This is for panel replacement that is spot welded. These are spot weld buster rods, and I'm going to tell you how they work. Let me go ahead and pull that out. And you can see this one's straight. This one's exactly the same, identical, except it's curved. See the curve on it? And then of course this one is a 90-degree curve, or 45, whatever you want to call it. And then these are very sharp blades right here. Now what you do with this is, you can see that this head see that head right there? That would be where you use your hammer on it. Or you would use your hammer on the side of this right here. And you would stick that in where there was a spot weld, and then you'd hit your hammer on that, and it would bust the spot weld. So this is a kit that you would purchase, and I got these on Amazon. And let me tell you something, when I'm doing a collision job, like for instance replacing a bedside, and I have 100 spot welds, after I drill them out and I get them started, I can take this thing right here and I can stick it in between the 2 panels and start hitting my hammer on it, and it will break those spot welds like butter. And you can see right here, to get in, you can see how the head of that, you can see where I've used that, and I use the hammer on this end. So you can use these at any angle you want, and they're very, very handy. So I'm going to leave this block up here because I'm getting ready to use that, and that's one of the blocks I'm going to use on that car. Let's go down to drawer 5 and see what we got. And as we open drawer 5 up, you can see there's a lot of different stuff going on. You see more hand blocks in here. I am a hand block guy. I love to sand with hand blocks, and believe it or not, it actually goes faster when you are sanding with a hand block than it does a machine block. if you're looking for a very precise finish and you're restoring cars, hand blocks are the only way to go. And this set of hand blocks right here, you can't buy these anymore, are very, very precise. They're made by a company called R&H Products. They've went out of business, but these blocks right here are very, very precise. If you can get your hands on them, I say get them. I got 3 of them here. I got the flat block, the long block, and then I got 2, which are basically the same. But these blocks here, when you're working on an old classic car and you want those panels straight as an arrow, those are the ones to get. This one here is made by Hutchins Tools. It's called a speed block, and you can still buy this one. And this would be the alternative to these 3 here if you can't find them. So get this right here. This is a good tool, and let me show you. This is a semi-flexible. You can see that. Look at that. And fits a lot of contours. I use this a lot. Once again, I keep paper on it. And the first long block that I ever bought, I bought it at a pawn shop, and this is it right here. And I don't keep paper on this because I don't even hardly use it anymore. But this is a multifunctional block, and what I'm saying, I liked this block because look at the handles. You can hold it like this. You can hold it like that. You can put your arm like this on it and do that. And it was a very, very nice block. But the thing about these blocks, and here's a good example, if you don't keep paper on them, you see what happens. And then we're going to go way back in time, and we're going to look at this block. I thought that was one of the first. This was actually the first long block that I ever bought, and it's made out of wood, and we don't even know who made it. And this is an antique, people. Antique. My friend Pete style antique. Well, I don't even use that anymore, but I got it. If we reach way back in here, this is what we use if we're going to do a big giant Bondo job, and we're going to, let's just say, do a trunk lid that has hail damage or a roof. Let me give you an example of how we would use this stick. So let's just say that this roof here, you can see it's got a round contour curve this way and that way. Let's say that it had hail damage on it, and I had to take my Bondo or my putty and spread it on here to make a thin layer of filler to fill all the imperfections in. Before it dried, what I would do is I would take this stick and I would come back here like this, and then I would go across it like that and use this as a giant Bondo spreader. But a lot of times I got 2 of these old sticks that I use. You can see that one has a slight curve to it, and they work very, very well, and it just like that. So that would clean the Bondo up and just only fill in the areas that I want, and it would create a system where I don't have to do as much sanding to break it down and get it precise. We got our slide hammers here, people. Very, very good tool to have if you're going to do collision work. I don't use the slide hammer a lot anymore, and I actually have 2 of them. Let me go ahead and move these around. Here's the little one right here. And these are for pulling dents out on older classic cars that I can't use my electronic dent puller on. Once I use these dent pullers though, and this one here I use for, let's say the fender well is pushed in, I would go ahead and put this hook on there, and then I'd pull that fender well out to the precise action that I want. So this one here is to use all them fittings over there and over here. And I want to show you, this is one that I made. I actually made this hook right here. And what this is for, this is the section I made right here to use this hook. This is for big, serious dents that need to be pulled out. You would drill a bunch of holes and then use this giant slide hammer with this on there to pull those out. This is the one that has the screw on the end. Let me go ahead and show that to you. And you can see it right there. That's got the big screw on it. You drill an 1/8" hole, you screw that in there, and then bam, okay? And you got to be really careful, because if you're not, that's what happens right there. Do you see that blister right there, guys? So watch out, because when you're sliding this hammer, it hurts. Trust me, it hurts. And then finally, but lastly, we got our pry bars in here. And I just store these in here because this is where I've always kept them, is in my Bondo buggy. And I just go ahead and keep all my pry bars in here. So we're going to go ahead and get to the very last drawer. This has been a very long video, and we want to finish up on it. So let's go ahead and open the final and last drawer of our Bondo buggy. And what you're looking at is my air tool drawer. This is the deepest drawer on the box. It's the bottom drawer, and this is where I keep all my air tools that I use. So we'll get down here and look at them. And this one here is my Hutchins Eliminator. This is my Bondo Buster when I am doing heavy body work. This is what I go to break it down with. This is not a finish tool, that's just a breakdown tool. If I have to strip a car, strip paint off a car, and we're not using chemical stripping or a blasting system, I go ahead and take this. This is a backing plate, and I don't even know if you can buy these anymore, that goes on my grinder, and then I'll use 36 grit. I also keep some 36 grit for my Bondo Busters in here. And this is actually, if I come across a job that has a lot of Bondo in it, and I need to get rid of that Bondo, I'll go ahead and use this as well. A lot of these old classic cars have already been restored once, and when you get involved in them, what happens is you're going to find a lot of Bondo. Well, this is the fastest way that I found to get rid of it. A lot of people will say, get your torch out and heat the Bondo off and it comes right off. Well, that's nice and dandy to heat the Bondo up, but in the process of doing that, you're actually warping the metal as well that isn't dented. So I don't do that. I go ahead and just grind it off. We got a mini Hutchins here. This is a mini air file. I use this a lot, but not as much as I use my standard air file, and this is a Viking. If you are going to buy an air file, I suggest spend the extra money and get a Viking brand air file. This is the best air file you will ever buy. This is the best air tool you will ever buy for the money. I've had this air tool probably since I was like 21, 22, and it was the best money I actually got 3 of these. Actually, I got 2 of them. I actually traded one of my employees for one for a tool that he had. So I have 2 of these, and this is the best, most precise air file you'll ever buy. Don't get a knockoff. A knockoff is not the same as a Viking. That's why there's so many knockoffs that look like this, because they want to trick you and fool you into that's the best one. Viking brand is the best. Then I would say Hutchins is after them. Speaking of Hutchins, this is an orbital air file. I don't use this for anything but finishing. This is a finish orbital air file that I use. I don't use it that much. It's a very rarity that I will use it, but it's there when I use it. A friend of mine 40 years ago actually gave this to me. He bought it brand new in the 60s, and it still works like brand new today. If you look over here, I got 2 DA sanders. This is National Detroit. I purchased these, both of these, when I was in my 20s, early 20s, and they still work like brand new today, and you can still buy parts for them. Don't be fooled by cheap, inexpensive ones. You can't even buy these anymore, these National Detroits. The company went out of business, and Dynabraid bought them. That was the name of the company, called Dynabraid, and you can still get parts for these, but if you don't have one, why even talk about getting parts? We got a palm sander. This is a Merca. There's hundreds and hundreds of brands of these out there. This is a finish sander. This is something you would use for finishing your vehicle for paint, whether it be a collision job or restoration job. A short throw palm sander is what that is. These ones are long throw. These would be for doing body work or possibly sanding down bare metal, for prepping it up, this, that, and the other. This is the one you want for finish work. And then over here, I just got various different sandpapers that I keep in my toolbox, so I'm stockpiled up. And that, my friend, is pretty much my Bondo buggy of the tools that I use to do body work on all the vehicles that you see my friend Pete restore and or collision repair jobs. So everything that you see in here that we're working on was done with the tools in that toolbox over there. This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete. I hope you liked this little tour of what a body man has to do the job that he does, to make the job right, and to make it paint ready. Once again, this is paint ready, and I couldn't have done it without my Bondo buggy, my faithful Bondo buggy toolbox, with tools that I've had since I was a kid. And it takes years and years to build that up to the preciseness and perfectionist that you need to do and have to make everything work. My friend Pete, your friend Pete, right here, getting ready to hand block this car today so I can paint it tomorrow. We'll see you later.
Thanks for watching DIY Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.